And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 5, episode 44. Not sure what else to say about this episode. I've had some impressive people on this show, and and in this show, I have what I could only describe as a legend, and that is Mr. Mike Neal, my longtime friend Curly. I may call him Curly throughout this interview, but Mike Neal, who's the head baseball coach at the United States Sports Academy. This is a Division 3 based podcast, and there are strong Division 3 ties with this gentleman that we'll talk through. Mike, Curly, it's great to see you. Did you ever think that we would be doing a podcast together? Going back 20 years, did you think we'd be doing a podcast?
Oh, you never know. I mean, the basketball game you and I did when we almost got recruited by the Big West or something that night.
We did, yes.
So I knew it might be in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, Curly and I did some D3 basketball games together where I was play by play, he was color, and some people actually heard it and kind of made us an offer to do some games in a D1 conference. And I guess our lives would be different had we said yes to that, Curly. Is that correct? Would we
Yeah,
be big time?
we thought the Playboy life was right around the corner.
Well, folks, let me just do a little background here, and then we'll figure out what this cat is up to right now. So, Mike Neal is the longtime head baseball coach at Blackburn College in Carlinville, Illinois, a town that I have visited a few times to see Curly. He's the winningest coach in any sport in Blackburn College history. He was the head baseball coach at Millikan before that. He's been involved in Vanderbilt University baseball camps, big time stuff. We'll talk through all that. And about a year ago, Mike left Blackburn to take this head baseball job to start up a program from scratch at the United States Sports Academy. So, Curly, can I just first ask this? Like, explain to people what the United States Sports Academy in Daphne, Alabama is exactly. Let's just start from there.
Yeah, it's primarily it was an online institution. And let me kind of go the history of it. It originated, well, this is like our 51st year coming up. It originated back in the 70s and early 80s. The founder was big into the Olympics, huge. Wasn't about participating or competing in sports, but more the study of sports, the study of making coaches better coaches. He was not pleased with the results of the Berlin Olympics in 72. And that's kind of the emphasis of starting the academy. It began in Wisconsin, moved to Mobile, Alabama at the University of South Alabama. And then in the mid 80s, bought the building we're in here in Daphne, Alabama. It's an old oil company that went out of business. Pretty cool architecture and such. It's also a sport art museum. $15 million of sports art throughout the building. Really, really cool place to go work every day. Um, and so that was the impetus of it. His son followed him as the president, kept the same ideas. And then our new president, Dr. Steve Condon, came in a year before I got here, and he pushed the idea of having sports to, we all know about Division 3 and smaller schools. They're closing. A lot of them have,
Yeah.
and other ones are in trouble financially. And he tried to get ahead of the curve a little bit. We were the academy was had its niche before COVID. It was an online institution for coaches to get their master's degrees or doctorates.
Sure.
And while, as a coach, as busy as you are, to be able to pick up and go somewhere and do a master's isn't very easy if realistic. So the impetus of the institution was being able to learn more about sports, become better coaches, and earn a master's degree, which then helped teachers move up pay scales and so on and so forth. But everything was primarily online. And after COVID, everybody started online learning.
Sure.
So our niche kind of got taken away. So the president, being able to see forward said, well, let's start sports and let's start putting kids back, let's have kids here on campus again. And I think they did way back in the day, but it had been years and years since students were
Right.
in person. And most of our kids are on a hybrid schedule, some, a couple classes in person, a couple classes online, because that's what we've been really good at. So that's kind of the history of the place. Famous alums, the late Mike Leach, head coach at
Oh wow.
Mississippi State, earned his master's here.
Sure.
Recently, Troy Tulowitzki played
Shortstop, Colorado
yep,
Rockies, Tulsa
yep,
Drillers before that.
yep. He's an assistant at the University of Texas. In order to coach at Texas, you have to have a college degree. He went into pro baseball, didn't have a degree, so he did his bachelor's online with us. There's some other, names, vice president of the Denver Broncos, some other people out there.
There's a thing on the website that says kind of the vision is sports have the power to transform lives, uplift communities, and empower people worldwide. That's a really cool high level mission statement. And then it kind of goes into like the degrees. And I mean, the school essentially prepares kids for life in sports roles, right? A wide variety of sports related roles. Am I saying that correct?
Yeah, and I think that was the core of our institution. We've since added business as a major,
Cool.
and we've added pre-physical therapy that kind of connect to the sports. Obviously, you have sport business. Business is part of sports, more so today than anytime. And we're just over the bay from Mobile, Alabama, where there's some massive corporations such as Airbus and Austal, a shipping company. And, as we hope to pair our students into internship opportunities if they're in the business world. But a whole class yesterday went to the Senior Bowl to watch practice
Cool.
and talk with people. And that's, right across the bay in Mobile as well. Um, but so, that's kind of what we're able to do, and that's kind of the background of things. We have two former Olympians coach or teaching here. One teaches business, one teaches sports management. She was silver medalist in Barcelona. He was an Olympic handball player, and they're both from Eastern Europe. But neat, you're being taught by Olympians. That's kind of cool.
First baseball coach ever in the history of the program. The first baseball game will be played tomorrow. So tomorrow against Tougaloo College. I had to research how to pronounce that. It's Tougaloo. They're the
You nailed it.
Bulldogs. We're
You
gonna
nailed
we're gonna
it.
talk about Tougaloo in a second. But just getting back to like your decision to leave Blackburn and take this gig. So I think the last two times ago when I saw you coach, it was up in Sherman, Texas. I took a little drive with my guy K Nuts. We went up to watch the Beavers play Austin College. Now I don't know if we were the only ones that had some cocktails in a little cooler. I don't know if that was allowed or not, but I think we were enough off the premise. We were a little behind there that it was solid. I'm just going to say that. Now you allowed us.
You didn't broadcast it at all.
We
It
weren't
was very discreet, very
correct.
discreet.
Now you allowed us up close access to you during the. I was live tweeting the Blackburn Beavers game with some interviews in between innings. Twitter Nation found that to be fascinating too. And I get it's like the mic'd up thing's real popular now in Major League
Yeah.
Baseball, where you mic up someone. Um, People really enjoyed seeing Coach Neal close up. I mean, that was big time stuff, Curly.
Well, as a fan watching it on the big league level I was like, man, as a coach, that's got to be annoying. But then, baseball's slow enough, and you
It's slow.
timed it right between innings, and it was actually kind of fun. And I
And
think,
you had some kid that hit a ball to dead left field that is still going. Who was that kid that hit that bomb?
Tyler Jackson was his name, kid from Arizona, and he
I
crushed
mean,
it.
yeah. So I've seen a lot of Blackburn games. There was, of course, the Beavers had a lot of success when you were there. A lot of it, SLIAC and NCAA success. The Beavers shocked the nation. My words, not yours. Shocked the nation in taking down the Illinois Wesleyan Titans on an evening in Bloomington, Illinois. Certainly not shocking the nation for Coach Neal. You went in there thinking that you were winning that ball game. Is that correct?
Are you talking about the NCAA game,
Yeah,
the tournament game?
yeah.
Yeah, we played them earlier in the year, and it was a close game. It was like a high scoring game that they had won, and we felt that year we had two pretty good pitchers, and we had a heck of a lineup. And that group, we'd been good for like 3 years going in, 2 years going into that. So we felt like we could play with anybody, and we played a great baseball game that day. We did everything right. Hit and run singles, diving plays. We just played really good, and our pitcher pretty much owned the game on the mound. He filled it up, and yeah, it was. That's the only victory in Blackburn's history in an NCAA tournament game in any sport. So pretty proud moment for us.
Yeah, and some of those games, I can't remember which Blackburn game at the Titans it was, but I had the chance to be outside the fence with a group, Mr. Byron Tucci, namesake of Tucci Stadium. Uh,
Yeah,
he brought us some food. There was a lot going on out there. There was a lot of people there to root on Curly, even people with Titan, partisanship. People were very happy to see Curly doing well. What was that like, Curly? People wearing green, but also like, hey, we hope Curly does. What was that
yeah.
like?
That would have been the next game. It was against Carthage, and we ran out of pitching. We needed to win the first game of the regional. We lost to Carthage 5-3 with our number one. Our number two beat Wesley, and we battled. They were thumping us pretty good, and our big first baseman hit a grand slam. All of a sudden, it was 14-10 in the seventh or eighth, and we just couldn't get any more scratched across. But it was a heck of an atmosphere, um, for for that game with all my Wesleyan friends. Now they could root for us
we're
openly.
we're
You know,
officially back to being able to root for Curly in all the games for
yeah.
sure. So Curly, the decision then you had a great run at Blackburn. Uh, how did you find out about this gig? And then why did you leave Blackburn to take this gig?
Well, no, to be honest, I was named the interim athletic director at Blackburn for a year and enjoyed it and thought, future wise, that would be a nice path. Continue to do baseball, be the AD, and then, phase out of baseball, move to the AD. And they decided to go a different direction. And after 25 years, I didn't think that was really a very good display of loyalty. And so I started looking for new opportunities. Saw this one pop up in the NCAA employment section, and I did some research on it. Um, Part of me, I had earned a master's degree at Northeast Louisiana, and I spent 2 years in Monroe, Louisiana, and absolutely loved the South, loved it. So going back south, back in my head was like, maybe I could someday in my career down south, and then this happens, the trigger
Right.
point up at Blackburn, and that triggered it, and then coming down here and being prepared, and it was a challenge. I had to work the hardest I've worked in 10, 15 years to get this put together. When you're
Sure.
trying to sell something that doesn't exist,
Right.
it's a vision and stuff. So, fortunately, I've got some kind of connections throughout the country, and we've got ten states represented now on our roster. So
Wow. As far as
it's
putting the roster together, that was obviously job number one. You get the job last January. You're playing a game for the first time here on February 1st, 2025. So, you've had about a year, but from scratch. How did you go about finding kids and, like you said, selling them something that doesn't exist? What was the approach there?
I made some phone calls before I moved down to some of the coaches here. We, this is a unique area. The Bay, Mobile Bay is pretty large. It's, to cross from Mobile over to Daphne is about 8 miles over water.
Right.
And we're in Baldwin. When you cross the bridge, you enter Baldwin County, which has
Sure.
about 12 high schools. Really nice area, and takes us all the way down to Gulf Shores and Orange Beach on the water. And so,
Have you been to the Floribama?
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Just
come on,
checking.
you should know that.
Just check. Okay. Continue.
Yeah. And I thought, as I moved down there, I I need to know the coaches right away in your backyard. So the thing I did when I moved down, I made some phone calls ahead of time, introduced myself, and then I made sure I got out to practices of everybody in Baldwin County. And then I tried to move into Mobile County and meet coaches and stuff. I haven't got all the way through Mobile County, but I know all the coaches now in Baldwin County, um, because it's the backyard, and we've had so many kids pop up late in the summer,
Right.
and it's like, you know what, I want a chance to play baseball, and so they've come here, and kids from right down the road in Fairhope. I don't know, the listeners know Fairhope. Oh, that's an absolutely gorgeous town, hidden jewel in our country. Um, but being able to meet the coaches, and then junior college coaches, you know, across the bays, Bishop State, developed a great relationship with Coach Jim Hattenstein there. He's a tremendous guy. He helps me immensely, and was so open, and everybody was so nice down here and helpful, and getting kids over here. And I think our first commit was a kid from Michigan who worked out with a buddy of mine named Scott Pickens. Scott was the former bullpen catcher for the Detroit Tigers, and Scott and I have known each other, and he basically pushed him our way. He came to visit. He was our first commit. Right after that, the shortstop at Daphne High School committed. Really nice little player, and so it started to go. But I can get into another story. Might as well, right? We got a little bit of time, right?
Yeah, there's no time limit on the QCast.
Okay. So been here about 3 weeks, and I get asked to go to lunch with the president at a real fancy seafood restaurant on the Causeway between here and Mobile. And spent about an hour. He's telling me about his background, and all of a sudden, an hour and 15 minutes into it, he just looks at me and goes, "I'm not feeling any momentum." I'm like, "Uh-oh." Because we didn't have very many commitments. I don't think we had any commitments after 3 weeks. Now, I've worked my tail off getting into
Right.
places, meeting people. And he's like, if I were you, I'd do this. And I said, "Oh, pretty good idea." I knew what my plan, and I just had to wear it. I said, "Yeah, yeah." And then once we got the first couple commits, we got a couple more. Then we might go a week without any, and then
Sure.
three more, and just the waves. It came in waves in March and April, and um, and we built it up. We got 29 kids in the program right now.
And we'll
So
talk about some of those when we talk about this game in a second. I just want with recruiting, at some point, you're going to want some kid, some South Side Irish kid from Brother Rice. And I wanted to go back and ask you about this thing that happened in November of 1986. I was a freshman at Brother Rice, and my powerhouse high school from the Chicago Catholic League came down to Hancock Stadium to play East St. Louis in the state championship 6A game, biggest division at the time. Now, again, I'm down there with my brother Rice gear. I don't know you at the time, but I'm there. I later find out later in life that you and Brian McNulty went to that game specifically to root against the Chicago team and to root for East St. Louis. And I think the final score may have been 50-2 or something like that. Why did you feel the need to root against Brother Rice? I don't understand it to this day. What happened? Why
you
did you
know,
guys
I
jump on that bandwagon?
that's a very poignant question I've been hit with. I wish Nuts was here to help me.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's on my prep list. Yeah, East
yeah,
St. Louis. Yeah, why did you and Brian
no, I
what did you have
we
against
don't
Brother
have a
Rice?
good reason. We were enamored by East
Yeah,
St. Louis's
yeah,
athleticism and offense. I just think you guys were the Brother Rice Crusaders
Crusaders. Yeah,
were collateral damage that day. I mean, I think if you remember the game, they missed a field. Brother Rice tried to score with like a 45
yes,
yard field goal. They miss it. Guy for East St. Louis is sitting 9 yards deep in the end zone, takes it back for a touchdown. He scores, but then they realize you can't advance a field goal out of the end zone. It was the
right.
rule, but nobody knew it at the time. He's going back and forth through the field, 109 yards into the end zone, and just is what it was.
Yeah, I just had to ask about that. It's always from the moment I found out about that and somewhere in the mid 90s, I just never understood why there was this angst against my Chicago school. But I just wanted to bring that up now that you're on my podcast. Let's talk about, first of all, I want to talk about baseball support, influence. I was reading the announcement of Coach Neal getting this gig. There's a who's who of cool baseball people that have nice things to say about Curly. A couple guys in particular, your relationship with Tim Corbin at Vanderbilt. Talk. I know that's someone that's meant a lot to you. Talk about that relationship.
Yeah, it began with Derek Johnson going to who was at Vanderbilt as the pitching coach, and DJ, played for the Bobcats. Played 1 year for me for the Bobcats, and then we were really weren't player coach relationship. We were more like peers and friends. But when Corbin was hired at Vanderbilt, DJ'd been around him, and he's like, Curly, you need to come down here and meet Corbin. He's different. I mean, just special. So came down, um, saw their first ever fall practice, and you just saw a guy that's so locked in, and just saw an edge to him that was really neat. He was really friendly. His sense of humor is off the charts. Um, but then I started working camp for them, and I have every year, and um, just you learn so much being around that program because they're never stagnant. They are always evolving within that program, despite the fact, Corbs has been there that long, and
Right.
they've only had two pitching coaches. They've had Derek since Corbs has been there, Derek Johnson and Scott Brown, and the friendships I have with those guys is great, and can pick up the phone and get a question answered anytime I need to. But yeah, just it's really neat, and it was cool the year they won the World Series in Omaha. I was at the game, and and Corbs didn't know I was there, but I went back to the hotel, and I was outside, and they got off the bus. He sees me, just runs up and you know gives me a hug. He goes, "Can't believe you're here," and just he's a special individual.
And DJ was the other guy I was going to ask about because this is the part that I don't like is last year, almost this time, I was thinking about making a trade in my fantasy baseball league for Hunter Green with this guy Kevin McNulty, and we're talking about it. So I know that Hunter Green's about to have an enormous season. I just know because I watched him the year before, and I had traded him, and I was trying to get him back. I was trying to low ball. So my guy K Nuts kind of funnels this question through you, I think, and anyway, Kevin, who doesn't know anything, he realized that Hunter Green is an absolute steal and that he shouldn't trade him to me, and he didn't. And then he has a monster season, right? So like I don't love that Kevin has access to the pitching coach of the Reds. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that
Yeah,
bothered me, Curly. That was no
it
good.
should. It should.
Right? That's all. But DJ obviously has been a big part. I mentioned DJ Tim Corbin. What other like influences would you give a shout out to that have helped you get to this point? Obviously, you've had a long career, but there's probably a guy or two who deserves a shout out here in addition to
Oh,
those two dudes.
I mean, first and foremost, my dad. My late father. Um, he was a coach, and I wasn't sure I wanted to be a coach. I thought I'd be a broadcaster, and went to grad school to be a broadcaster. Changed my mind when I was there helping the program at Northeast. So all the passion and all the stuff Dad taught, that's first and foremost. Yeah. Um, High school coach Rich Kruger, just learned, he's a true coach, and just his ability to deal with people and build people up. He's amazing. He's 87 years old. He still works camp at Vanderbilt
Sure.
in the summer. It's 100 degrees, and he's still out there working because he just has that passion for the game. Really, really big influence. Junior college coach Claude Krasik, very good about the understanding how important the fundamentals of the game are. And, Claude's son Brian and I are the same age. He was my best friend in junior college, and I was the best man in his wedding. So the friendships we've established there, and learned things from Coach Martell at Wesleyan, who's been there for or was there forever. Um, but that, and then just going to learn at different clinics and things and pick up things and meet people along the way. By being around DJ, he's given me access to tons of really neat people and spent great time with him. And it's been neat.
Family wise, always good when I go up to Bloomington to see Doctor Neal, your brother, orthopedic surgeon, works with the Illinois Wesleyan Athletics Department as well. Always good to slip a little Sigma Chi grip to brother Neal. Of course, sister Felicia. You come from a very athletic family, and most people don't realize, and this is something I had to verify. I kept hearing it, and it was like, no, it's like Brian McNulty told me one time in 1995. He said, Curly, the fastest guy I ever saw. And you actually got hurt. You tore your ACL returning a kick for the Titan
Right.
football team, correct? Again,
Covering a kick.
covering
Yeah.
a kick in a game maybe against Augie. Was it
At
Augie?
Augie. Yeah.
So kick coverage team, and like, yeah, people swear like you were the fastest. Is that confirmed? Like you had serious wheels in the day,
Well,
correct?
it doesn't look like it, but I'd have to say it's probably true. It is true. I was blessed with big time speed.
Yeah,
Um, so was my
athletics.
brother. So was my
Right.
brother. I mean, brother and my sister. She ran track at Illinois State. Tyler had records at Illinois Wesleyan, and I didn't run track, but they all say who's the fastest, and sister was the only one that got a Division I scholarship, but I'm still faster than her because But and then it depends on the race with my brother and I. He said I can't beat him at all, but shorter burst races, I got him. I was quick. I was quicker. First step was quicker.
Bloomington High School grad, of course. Generally a Bloomington normal legend, a guy that a man about town, as you would say. I remember in 1995 hosting the now infamous Goose Creek party,
Oh my!
making the invite list with Brian McNulty, my roommate, and you were probably the first name written down on the list, and that was like you remember that was a big gathering in Bloomington. You were at that one.
Oh yeah. So what? 1995. So 28 years old.
Yeah,
Not just 20. We're in the prime of our lives.
absolutely. Yeah,
It's
yeah. There was a lot of people there. There's a lot we can't go into about on the QCast about the Goose Creek party night. I had a mixtape. It was called Goose Rock. It was an actual cassette. It was two sides. I had spent all this time making a cassette because there weren't ways to listen to things digitally. So we'll just leave the Goose Party there. Wanted
pool
to
balls.
also
Pool balls in the pool.
there, yeah, yeah. I
Yep.
was left to deal with that the next morning. My
Yep.
roommate wasn't around to deal with that, but I
And
had
that
to.
wasn't the incident that was on video that we won't speak of.
You can't. There's many
That
things. There
that
was.
I was involved in.
I was called into an office. We'll just leave that at that. I want to also speed round before we get more into baseball. Wings, best wings. So I feel like Schooners in Bloomington is higher up a chart of great wings than people across the country would acknowledge. But you're a wings savant. You've been across the country enjoying wings. Tell me, like, do you have a top two or three wings places that you've had?
Tell you what, Dr. McKay's in Bloomington, they have skyrocketed the
Really?
charts.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. And Schooners, obviously, both
Right.
those.
Right.
The Myrna Tap, pretty good ones in
Absolutely.
Bloomington.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Bloomington's a good place for wings. There was a place in North St. Louis, Greg's Bar and Grill. It's not open anymore. Um, Secret wing sauce. I have the recipe. I'm not allowed to share it, even though the place
Wow.
is it's fantastic.
Wow.
Um, that Greg's was definitely up there. There's you know Cyberg's in St. Louis has that mustard based
Oh
one,
yeah.
which is unique,
Yeah.
but not when it's not the true buffalo wing.
Right.
I still gotta go to the Mecca. I gotta go to Buffalo someday and go to the Anchor Bar and
Right.
some of those other places to really complete the resume,
You need
right?
to complete that. Let me also ask, um, before I ask about barbecue in general. So let me just a little variation of barbecue. It shouldn't even count. You're the only one of the only people I know that loves the McRib to the degree that you like. I actually don't mind the McRib. I think it has an interesting combination of stuff. You're a McRib savant. I've used the
I
word
was.
savant twice. You were? Are you
I
out on the
was.
McRib?
Open heart surgery kind of made my decision to back those off. Having 42 McRibs during McRib season probably wasn't smart.
And this is a public service announcement now from the QCast that having 42 McRibs in one McRib season would lead to the open heart surgery potentially. Be a
Yeah, I'm sure it was a factor. I'm sure
contributing factor.
contributing factor. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So big McRib fan. How about barbecue in general? Another area I feel like you're a subject matter expert. Is there any barbecue in particular where you'd say like that's got to be right up at the top?
Well, down, obviously you're in the heart of it. You're in the,
Correct.
3 hours north of the
Yeah.
prime barbecue
Yep.
area. There's a place called the Salt Lick,
Yeah.
Dripping
With you.
Springs, Texas,
Yep. Outside of
south
Austin.
south of Austin. And it's nothing fancy. It's wooden
Picnic
picnic
tables.
tables, but the spits they have, with you just see the meats cooking, and it's my mouth watering right now.
I think it
But
is. I think we just
it
captured that on
truly
the
was.
QCast.
It truly was. Uh, but the places, it's BYOB. You can roll in there, eat barbecue, and pull a cart of a cooler cart behind you. Just start cracking your own beers. That's just their way of things there. That's my favorite barbecue place I've ever been, is that one.
I would
Uh,
say that for me, it's also that's also my favorite. People would swear by a lot of other ones, but I think Salt Lick for me is the best I've ever been to. But I'm not a subject matter expert like you.
yeah, it's special. Now Blacks I have not been to. Well, there's two of them that can't remember that town. Oh, it's kind of on the way to San Antonio from Austin.
New
Uh,
Braunfels, maybe.
no, it's close to New Braunfels, but it's a little farther east, I believe. I'll I'll do some research
Yeah,
and
I mean,
get that to you on this.
we'll follow up with people on the QCast because certainly going to ask what was the other place.
Yeah,
Let's talk here. So we got a ball game tomorrow, Curly, Saturday, February 1st. The Eagles of the United States sports getting first ever real. I'm sure you've played exhibitions or something up until now, but first real game. And we got the Bulldogs coming in from Tougaloo. It's always hard to knock these guys off, obviously. I believe the three guys that you're throwing this weekend would be Victor Tayo, Mitchell Sampson, and Jaden Brown. Are those the guys that are taking the hill this weekend for those three
they are.
games? Those are the
They
three
are.
starts. What order? Who will throw the first pitch in Eagles history?
Victor Tayo.
Victor Tayo. Now this kid, he's like Nick Roper. He's a 6'7". Is he lefty or is he righty? Is he righty?
He's a righty.
Okay, he's right.
Righty.
But you do have that Jaden Brown's the lefty, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so Victor Tayo is a 6'7" right-handed pitcher from Rio Grande in Ohio. That's where Bevo Francis went, by the way. You need to Google Bevo Francis, the best small college player ever. You need to Google that. How did you get a kid from Rio Grande, by the way?
He played last summer in Marion, Illinois for the Thrillville Thrillbillies. And our assistant coach here, my longtime friend Bobby Simpson, was the hitting coach for the Thrillbillies. And
The Thrillbillies. I like
yeah,
that.
Thrillville Thrillbillies.
That's big time. That is a big time name right there. I love that.
Very good.
I bet
And
those games
so,
are fun. So that's
oh yeah,
so he was a big get for it. So he will be the opening starter in the game Saturday. Then there's a doubleheader. So who starts the first game? Will it be the lefty Jaden Brown or the righty Mitchell Sampson?
he's a righty, Mitchell. He's
Western
pitched at
Illinois,
Hart, yeah, from
Leathernecks.
Galesburg. Yeah, he's a Galesburg native. Pitched at Heartland, went to Western. He was Western's Friday night guy. Ended up at Corpus Christi, Texas this fall. He's coming off Tommy John a year ago, and so I guess, not fully recovered, and Corpus Christi texting him, said, we don't see a future for you here. So that happens in the fall. And he's working out in Josh Cowton's place in Bloomington,
Wow.
K's Academy, which a bunch of big leaguers and pro guys work out of in the off season. And Josh is really good friends with my brother, and I've known Josh for years. He informed me about Mitchell, and we talked back and forth. And he really wanted to come pitch where it's warm, coming off Tommy John, and that's you know Daphne, Alabama is a whole lot better than anywhere in the Midwest for uh, warm weather. It's going to be 70 tomorrow down here. So he'll pitch game two.
And then Jane
Uh,
Brown, the lefty, gets game three, and
mhm.
he's from 8 miles across the water in
That's right.
Mobile. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yep. Transfer from the University of Mobile.
As far as the roster, 19 transfers and 9 freshmen. So moving forward, do you see like a combination of guys that, homegrown freshman type developed guys and transfers, a mix at all times? Do you see that mix being important between the two types?
Yeah, I think it was crucial right off the bat
Had
not to
to.
run out 29 freshmen.
Had to, right. Yeah.
And but now our freshmen, we're going to start a couple of those freshmen. I mean, our freshmen can play, and we want to continue to um, bring in freshmen and develop them. Um, our situation for player development is unbelievable. We play at the Daphne Sports Complex. It's a turf infield. We have 5 covered cages right next to it. On campus, we have a new weight room that we've already
Wow.
outgrown, so we're blowing the hole in a wall to expand the weight room. A full-time strength coach who played Division I baseball, who's
Wow.
outstanding. So our guys have improved immensely from when we started back in September. The guys are bigger, stronger. The ball, the work they've put in the cages, the work we've done in the bullpens. Our pitchers throw more strikes. Our hitters hit more line. I mean, we've really gotten better throughout this. And like I was, we had a neat day here today, the Baldwin County Media Day. Every high school baseball, softball coach and their players come through here for a interview, kind of like what we're doing. And I was talking to the coach at Fairhope, and just that, you know, we're we don't have much of a drop off with our roster. We're pretty
Sure.
steady. So if somebody goes down, we got depth, and um, I think scholarships help that, obviously. But then when you have a whole bunch of them,
Sure.
there you can't take a day off. You got to work. You got to work. And
Let me
so,
ask you this: as far as this pitching group, your top three here of Tayo, Sampson, Brown, where would it like a 19, 20-year-old Marc Tucci fit into this rotation? Kind of a crafty lefty. Like where would he slot in your rotation, and just talk about that?
Two should be down a little behind those guys.
Not in the top, not pitching
He
opening
wouldn't be a,
weekend.
he wouldn't be a weekend starter for us. Tus was a 79 to 81 guy back in the day, and maybe 83, 84 on
Right.
today's radar guns. So Tus was firm.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and we've got, the two righties. When they're full go, they're going to be 93, maybe 94 miles an hour.
Oof.
And the lefty's 85 to 87 when he's right. And so we have a drop off on the mound after those three. We got another kid that's going to be 87, 88, but everybody else is going to be 81, 82, and that's where Toos would fit in.
Let me
If
ask you about the whole debate right now about like velocity, chasing velocity. It's a major league thing, but it's now at every level, right? And so there's this debate about our people getting hurt, our pitchers getting hurt because everyone's chasing velocity nowadays. Last year there was another rash of pitchers blowing out their arms, Spencer Strider and whoever else. Are you a believer that velocity is the cause of that? Or is it mechanics? Is it just it's always happened and it is what it is? Or what's your take on that?
I think there's a lot of factors in there. I think I think one factor, I don't think kids play long toss the right way, and they don't play enough of it. They're too much wrapped into plyo balls and stuff like that. And you don't play enough long toss where the arm actually gets to go through its whole range of motion as it throws in strength. You're still throwing a weighted object, but being able to use a full range of motion,
Right.
I think that's a factor. Um, Not enough rest. The old days, guys they'd throw a ton, but then when the season was over, they didn't pick up a ball for 2 months, 3 months,
Right. Right.
throw it. And now kids are throwing them all the time. You got 8, 9-year-olds playing in tournaments in December, and they never stop.
Right.
And especially that my brother's an orthopedic surgeon, and that's what he talks about is that these guys are young and they're throwing too much. So I think it's that, the chase of velocity. Everybody loves the radar gun, and it's nice because our heavy throwers, our hard throwers, they're going to throw stuff that some kids can't hit. It's just
Right.
too good. Um, but if you don't throw for a strike, you're not going to pitch. And but those kids will throw strikes and they'll throw it hard.
Where are you at on pitch counts? Like, maybe more of a major league question, but also then applies to you guys. So in Major League Baseball, very, very rarely anymore do you see a pitcher throw a pitch beyond 100. I mean, honestly, it's the average I would guess is somewhere in the 90s. I mean, when a guy makes it to like 110 pitches because they're trying to get him through the seventh inning or something, that's it. I mean, are you a believer? Because they're old school. Bob, how many innings did Bob Gibson pitch and Nolan Ryan? And like, where are you on the topic of like pitch count?
Well, back in the day, so say Bob Gibson is going to run it out there 165 pitches. Bob Gibson in the ninth inning throwing his 165th pitch is better than anybody they're bringing in out of the bullpen. Would you agree with
Without
that?
question.
Today, you know, Max Scherzer, he's 40 years old. He's at 105 pitches. He's throwing 94, not 98 anymore. You got somebody in the back of that bullpen that's 100, 101.
Right.
That's, so you don't need him to go to 125 pitches anymore because you got guys in the back end
Right.
that throw harder or have more wipeout stuff and
You're
stuff.
right. The
So
reliever isn't like some insurance salesman that the
that's
Cardinals
right.
signed, right? Like he's
Yeah. Yeah.
that great point. Bullpen guys now are all ridiculously. You get Bruce Star Gratterall coming at you in the eighth inning, right?
Class A.
Right. Yeah. So it's a great point. Great point about pitch count. One other question: the spot behind the dish. I noticed there's a Blackburn kid on this roster. Is Andrew Garza in the mix here behind the dish?
He would be. He's pulled his hamstring
Oh,
last week, so he's out a week or two.
okay.
He would have probably been a DH tomorrow. He would have been the DH tomorrow had he been healthy. And we have a freshman catcher from the New Orleans area who's pretty special. So those two will handle the bulk of the catching.
By the
Uh,
way, are you impressed with the level of prep that's gone into this QCast? Do you think we were just turning on the mics and talking about schooners? Or I mean, there's some detail that's here.
Now I thought schooners would pop up on along this journey, but I knew, you know, there's an audience out there, so you're not going to go in here haphazard. We
No, no,
knew
no,
that.
no, no.
No.
There's going to be. We know a lot of people that are going to be watching this, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to embarrass myself here. Let me final question, and then I'll ask what final thoughts you have. Your coaching staff. So Bobby Simpson and Mark Boyer. Talk about your two assistants.
Well, I've known Bobby for ages. Bobby ran a hitting place down in Southern Illinois, and the late Dan Callahan, the Southern's head coach, introduced me to Bobby way back when. And Bobby and I just had a great friendship. Bobby was later the head coach at Ren Lake Junior College. We'd always hoped to coach together someday, and finally this opportunity, you know, the thing I've got here is I get administrative support here. And so once we had it built, they said, okay, we can hire a full-time assistant. So I got, you know, my background's kind of a offensive one and such, but I've been around DJ enough to learn pitching. So with Bobby here, he just handles the whole hitting. I don't tell kids how to hit anymore. Let him do it. And I'm not watching us hit. I know why I did it because it's working. But I'm handling the pitchers, and we've really basically focused on simple things, to allow us to throw strikes. Um, I never pitched, so I never able to, manipulate the ball, and I can read about it, but I've never felt it as a pitcher. So um, they kind of, you know, talk about that amongst
Sure.
themselves. But Bobby's, instrumental in bringing Victor down here. And then we brought in another lefty who's ineligible, that we'll have next year if he gets eligible, which he should. Uh, and so it's great. It's great to have somebody that, has your back and
Right.
all that. And then Mark Boyer, Mark sent me an email, interested in coming out to coach. So I am coming in for an interview here. And Mark is retired at age 34. Mark, wait, everybody on this QCast is going to be a little jealous. Mark played junior college baseball in California. I think worked for Southwest Airlines. Uh, Sold his house and met his wife, and his wife's a doctor. So they came to Alabama. She did her residency in Fairhope, went back to California. Job. She then changed field. She wanted to go um, younger kids, pediatrics, and opening back in Fairhope. They sell their house in California, moved to Fairhope, which Fairhope's a beautiful town, but they bought probably double the house for half the cost in Fairhope than they
Sure.
had in California.
Sure.
She's a doctor. They got a 1 year old baby boy. He's a stay at home dad, retired. Um, just a wonderful guy, first class, and knowledgeable because he played in college, and
Sure.
he's a catcher, throws good BP. I mean, to have somebody, just a good attitude guy, and we've gotten really lucky with him.
Yeah.
It's been cool.
Good. So good staff, guys you trust. Well, one more question before I ask you for final thoughts. One of the people consulted in this QCast was a gentleman named Dan Barham. A little bit of an X factor, this guy. A little loose cannon X factor. What? How would you describe him?
Loose cannon, menace,
Yeah.
sometimes a menace to society and a menace of our way of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
He was
yeah.
involved. He was involved in
Of course he was. Of
the
course
conceptual, the
he
vision.
tries to get. He's in the mix wherever he can get in.
He is.
You
That's
know.
another way to put it. He's a guy that's in the mix. There's
Yeah.
no question about that. Whatever you want to call him, loose cannon, he's in the mix.
Yes. Yeah. I
So,
forgot. You know, he's a Champaign guy that moved to Bloomington, big Illinois fan. There's no record of him playing any sports. We got nothing.
right.
So I've surmised that he played the trombone in high school.
Oh boy. You think so?
So I have people with the ability of Photoshop and those kind of things, and I have a nice picture of him in an Illinois band uniform with a trombone.
Okay.
And so anytime he gets a little menacing and a little lippy, that picture goes out amongst the thread. So
That's I just had to ask you about the guy
yeah.
because he was involved in the development of the vision for this QCast. Um, Boy, I tell you what, folks, I've been talking to Mike Neal here, who's the first time, he's the only head baseball coach ever at the United States Sports Academy. The Eagles play their first game ever against Tougaloo College tomorrow. It's tomorrow, Saturday. And then they play doubleheader on Sunday. It's Mike Neal, aka Curly. Curly, I always give the guest the final thoughts here. So I like to say at this point, we're gonna have Milliken Nation tuning in and D3 Nation when I have a guest on from that place. I think with you, there may be people tuning in from more corners of the world than ever. So I don't even know where to say, like, hey, address these people. I'm just going to say, what would you like to leave all of those who check out this QCast with today? What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'll just talk about tomorrow. I think tomorrow, I mean, it's been well over a year since I've coached a game. So the excitement I have, the players are unbelievably excited. Um, the county has the umpire scrimmage. There's 10 high schools playing out at the complex before our game. Um, I have a gentleman to throw out the first pitch who I met here in Daphne. Um, Vietnam War veteran, prisoner of war, was captured, uh, was able to free himself from his captors as well as his three fellow Americans after being, captive for 3 weeks. Got free, 2 week journey back to get to the friendlies. And he's our
Wow,
gentleman, Jeff Gibbs. He's born in Galesburg, Illinois. He'll throw out our first pitch tomorrow. Um, Pretty cool.
that's pretty
Pretty
cool.
cool.
That's amazing. And it's a great story all around of what you're doing with USSA and what you guys are building. And so wish you the best of luck, man. Are these games streamed? Can we tune into these things like I watch D3 games?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Um, our website's ussaeagles.com. Go to our schedule page and then pick the game and then says watch live. We'll have a stream there right behind home plate.
Nice.
I saw our soccer one. It was pretty decent quality. We don't have multi cameras. Hopefully, some day in the future we're moved to that. Certainly fits our deal as a sports academy. To maybe train kids in that realm. So something to look forward to.
Folks, that is Mike Neal, the pride of Bloomington, Illinois, of Bloomington High School, of Illinois Wesleyan, of Monroe, Louisiana, Lincoln Land Junior College. I mean, there's a lot of places that take pride in curly. Curly, you're gonna have a lot of people rooting for your team tomorrow, the Eagles. Best of luck to you, and look forward to watching that stream tomorrow, my friend.
Thanks, my brother.